Happy Coffee Talk Tuesday. We are taking a deep dive into one of my favorite books, The 4 Agreements. Okay, so even if you haven't read the book, even if you stumbled across this because it was like you happened to be on Facebook and you're like, oh, this is interesting. What is this? I think that you will get something from today's chat. It could be the thing that you need to hear the most today. Who knows? I love when that happens. I love when you guys reach out to me and you say, I needed to hear that today, or oh my gosh, yellow car. Like those are the words that I have been seeing. Those are the things that I have been hearing. I love all of that. So, okay, I'm popping the link to the blog post. I actually have the blog post all written and ready to go about this. When did I first stumble upon the 4 agreements? I don't know. But if you are watching, if you are paying attention to this, if you are participating, let me know. Let me know if you are also reading along, if you are also following along in the book, The 4 Agreements. I'd love to know that. Either way. Thinking I should delete. Oh, Marlo, isn't that the funniest part? I know. I struggle with that. You know what I have done? I have stopped commenting on other people's posts because that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so I feel you. We'll have a conversation about that after this. So the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. What is that word impeccable? What does that even mean? I remember growing up and the word impeccable was used in relation to my bedroom. Like, this room better be impeccable, my mother used to say. It better be impeccable when I come back up here. And it always was, because I liked having a clean room, and I still do. I really like having clean, neat spaces, and maybe it was because of that word. But anyway, the word impeccable, it basically means without sin. So this means so many things and has different meanings to everybody for whatever reason. It might conjure up different feelings for you, but for me, you might not know this about me because I don't really talk about this, but I grew up Catholic. And I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore, but one of the things that really struck me as a young child was this idea of sin. And I remember very vividly when I first went through, I guess it would have been maybe confirmation, maybe even my first communion, like 2nd grade. We had to meet with the priest and we had to go to confession. We had to practice this idea of going to confession. And I don't know if you know anything about Catholics, but it's not just one day a week that you go to church. It's multiple days a week. And we would have like CCD classes where we were learning how to become a really good Catholic. And you would have church, and you would have other church. I don't even remember. I just remember being there a lot. And you had to have something that you confessed. There had to be something that you did wrong in the previous week that you had to sit in front of the priest. Now, when you were, I don't know, when you were little, you had the option to sit behind this like curtain, or you could be face to face with the priest. And I think I always chose face to face because I didn't have anything to hide. Like, why would I? I'm like, I could sit in a chair next to you. That's fine. But I remember being like so fear struck. Like, I have to have something that I did wrong. Like, I have to have something that I did. And you're 8 years old. Like, what do you know about sin or doing things wrong? Well, you know a lot of things about doing things wrong. We're going to get into that because 8 is a very impressionable time. Yes, Marlo, me too. Exactly. I would make up things that I did to my sister. I'd be like, I pulled my sister's hair this week, and it's like, well, what made you do that? Why'd you do that? Are you sorry for that? And like, of course. I don't know. I can't remember what she did. But I had to make up lies a lot of the time. And how ridiculous is that? That like, as a child, there's this path, there's this understanding, you're supposed to confess something. So like, then you just have to make something up, even if you didn't feel like you really did anything wrong. I mean, come on, most 8-year-olds probably aren't doing anything wrong. They're not, because they don't know any better, first of all, but truthfully, they're not doing anything that they need to repent from. So it started at a very young age, this whole idea of sin and being impeccable. So once we start to pull apart that idea that this what does this mean, be impeccable with your word? It means to share words verbally or even written without sin. And here's the hardest part. It starts with you. When I think about being impeccable with my word, like the thing that conjures up the most thoughts when I'm going through, and I've read this book so many times, when I reread it, I just reread it this past weekend just to kind of keep myself really fresh. But the thing that really sticks out for me when it comes to being impeccable with your word is this idea of gossip, right? So we are taught at a very young age how to gossip, even if you don't realize it. I don't know if you can remember, but thank goodness, I grew up before the internet. Thank goodness. I can't even imagine being an impressionable 10, 11, 12-year-old and having the internet as well to like reaffirm all the bad things I think about. Or like all the things that I'm like, I'm bad, like I'm not good enough, whatever. And then the internet's like, yes, you're not good enough. Good, congratulations. Here are all the things that you don't have in your life. Here you go. Amazing. But I did have a very energetic and social mom who would be on the phone with people, and she was always talking to people. And I just remember hearing her conversations and learning from her conversations. And sometimes it would be like, meaning not in a rude way, but sometimes her or her friends or neighbors, whomever it was, would say things like, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? And you lean in because you're like, no, what happened to so-and-so? Because like you have to know. We love stories and we love to hear about how other people live their lives. And we love to kind of judge it against ours, even if we don't know. That's what we're doing. We love to compare it to our lives, and we love to judge it against what we know to be right and what we know to be true. We do. Why do we do this? We're taught at a young age that this is the right way to be. Maybe you got grounded as a kid for not doing something right, or you got reprimanded by, or like wait until your father comes home. Flashbacks. Maybe something like that. So you were taught at a very young age how to behave, how to be. So when you are talking to somebody and they say, oh, did you hear what so-and-so did? Or did you see what that was all about? And you're like, oh, tell me more. Like, tell me how this person is living. I don't want to say in sin, but those are the words that came up. Living in sin, living incorrectly, living against how we are supposed to be living, or doing something that makes them stand out, right? It's like, feed it to me. Let me know what is happening. And this is what the author calls black magic. So we have the opportunity every time we open our mouths and even open our ears to participate in pure magic or black magic. It's like, are you going to perpetuate these beliefs, or are you going to put good into the world? And it's a split-second decision, and you have years of unlearning to comprehend, to go through in that split second when you make the decision to either further the black magic or stop the black magic. And it is hard to unlearn. It is hard. When somebody has fishy gossip, you want to know what's going on. Even if you don't really care about the person that they're talking about, even if you've never met that person, you want to know what's going on, right? It is such black magic. Oh my gosh, yes, Marlo, it really, really is. So this I wanted to pull out this particular quote because it speaks to me, especially I think all the things, this always happens to me. Anytime I reread this book, it's always the perfect time to reread it. Because of what's happening around us, we're changing presidents, people are saying things and doing things that are just wacky. He says, I want to get this right. I'm reading it word for word. Your opinion is nothing without your point of view. It is not necessarily true. Your opinion comes from your beliefs, your ego, and your own dream. We all create this poison, in this case gossip, and spread it to others just so we can feel right about our own point of view. So our opinion, our point of view, our understanding of the best way to live is just that. It's an opinion. It's a formation of our understanding, our ego, our upbringing. And we are projecting that onto somebody else every time that we participate in gossip. Doesn't that just make you want to crawl under a rock? Immediately, I swear, this is true story. The first time I read this book, I broke up with my friends. I did, because I realized I was in this gossip swirl and circle, and it was making my belly hurt, it was making my head hurt, and I knew it was wrong. And yes, of course I participated in it because I didn't want to be the weird one. I broke up with my friends. And that's super drastic, but sometimes you just need like a super drastic cut to make the changes in your life that you need to make. And all of a sudden I found myself like not doing anything on Friday and Saturday nights. I didn't really have much of a social life, but the stomach pain went away, the headaches went away. So was that worth it? Probably. And that's, gossip is black magic, but that's not even the worst of it, you guys. The worst, and I see this all the time as a fitness professional and as somebody who just is really deeply interested in people improving themselves and becoming a better version, we're the worst to ourselves. We say the worst things to ourselves. And I hear you say the things about yourself. And I want to be like, no. But you have to like feel it and understand it for yourself. What if instead of like saying things, and we don't, sometimes it comes out like completely harmless, but we might say something like, oh my gosh, I'm so weak. Or, oh my gosh, I hate this one, but oh my gosh, I'm so fat. I'm so fat, which is not, you have fat, you're not fat. So let's just start there. But anyway, I hear that a lot. Or, oh my gosh, I just need to lose these last 10 pounds. Or, oh, my favorite one is, oh my gosh, I don't look a mess today. Like I'm such a mess today. We say these things. We speak this negative self-talk, this black magic to ourselves. And to me, that is the worst, because if you say it to yourself, you're more likely to say it about other people. But if you, let's just say, what if we got up today and we decided, I'm going to say things to myself like, dang girl, you're strong. Dang, you're beautiful. You matter. What if you said those things to yourself and you repeated those things every single day? Do you think that would change the interactions that you had with other people? Do you think you'd be more likely to say good things about other people when you start saying good things about yourself, especially because they're true, especially because you know they're true? You know you're good. You know that you are good, and you know that you are worthwhile and you are worth it. And what if we started here and then that sort of trickled down? And it's not going to happen immediately, but maybe you might notice some immediate effects. You might stand taller. You might smile. You might smile with your eyes, which is like better than smiling with your lips. Being impeccable with your word means using your thoughts and your words to feel good. And when you feel good, the people around you feel good, just by default, because you're putting that good out there. You're showing them that it's okay to feel pretty good about yourself. And it's okay to say good things about yourself. And it's okay to say good things about other people. Or honestly, just not even talk about other people at all. Just not even participate in those conversations. It's going to feel weird at first because you want to have something to give to that conversation. You want to have something where you can participate and be like one with the gang. But eventually, you'll be better for it. When we learn to be impeccable with our word, we can then see all of the changes that can happen in our lives. All of this black magic or emotional poison can be cleaned from our mind, from our communication, and it will allow us to be stronger when somebody puts negativity toward us. Because isn't it the worst thing when somebody says something negative to you, even if you're like, oh, they meant well. Here's one. This one's my favorite. I'll leave you with this one. Ooh, you look really tired. right? How many of you have heard that? How many of you have said that to somebody else? Even if the intention is good because you're really concerned about that other person, you're like, oh my gosh, are you sleeping? Like, is everything okay? Like, what is going on? Your words have just said something that made that person think, oh shit, did I not brush my hair? Did I forget to put my concealer on? What am I wearing? What did I look like? Oh man, I look tired. I must be tired. I'm awful. Man, I should get more sleep. Man. And then you just start this swirling effect of beating yourself up because of the one thing that person said. And usually it's somebody who's kind of close to you that you see all the time, like somebody you work with or a friend or whatever it might be, a relative. That's the worst. And they're like, no, I mean well, but they've said something that isn't a very good thing to say to somebody else, right? In the long run, it's really not, even if they meant well, So when somebody says something like that to you and you have this pure magic, this really positive self-talk happening to yourself, you're more likely to be like, okay, that's that person's opinion. That's how they understand the world. Maybe they feel tired themselves and they want me to ask about them, but it doesn't mean anything for me. It's not about me. You can kind of like deflect all of those things. It makes you a little bit stronger each time. The first time it hurts, but after that, you start to absorb it and you start to understand, okay, they're just not choosing the correct words. They're not being impeccable with their own word. It's a reflection of whatever they understand that they're pushing on to me. And that is powerful. That changes everything. It allows you to use your thoughts and your words to feel good, even if they're coming from you, even if they're coming from somebody else. And man, isn't that powerful? Isn't that powerful? Guys, I could get super pumped and excited and dive into this all day. So I would love to know if you have read this first agreement, what you thought about it, what stood out to you about it. I would love to understand. I would love to know. I love seeing other people's perspectives and thoughts and reactions, especially the very first time that they read it. Because sometimes like you look at it and you're like, no, that's wrong. And that's probably how I felt the very first time. And then I picked it up and read it again. And then I would start to see how it happens in the world. And I was like, oh, dang. Oh, dang. Starting to like reframe my understanding of it. So that is the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Next week, we're going to dive into don't take anything personally. And even though the first agreement is meant to be the one that's the hardest, for me, don't take anything personally was the hardest to break. So buckle up, stay tuned for that installment next week. In the meantime, feel free to comment on this. Feel free to send messages about the text, about your reactions, what you're thinking, and I welcome it. I welcome all that good conversation. And even if you say mean things, it's okay, because I know it's just a reflection of what you are going through. So with that, let's go take another sip of coffee. Have a great Tuesday. Be impeccable with your word. Think about what you say to yourself and what you say to others. Bye.